Pasha Paro, wine at 7. Yo, thank you for tuning the replay. I just wanted to, man, sometimes you have a defining moment. What was your last defining moment? Yeah, give me a second. And something just really made a lot of stuff click. And I just want to share it with you. I don't even really be, I mean, you guys know I talk like about me a little bit mixed in with like what I be trying to get, delivered to you guys knowledge wise. But yeah, this is worthy. Hold on a second. So, all right. So we know that Pasha say things like, I tested in the top 2 percentile in the nation, and some people, take that negatively and as an opportunity for them to feel offended, whatever. And then, but what I was really trying to tell people for so long is that means that 98% of the population, I know there's going to be a natural disconnect in the way we think or look at stuff or whatever you want to say, right? Which means there's a lot of extra work. So I've been putting a lot of study in. Many of us have, especially right now in this time period. I'm not even talking about studying I've been doing for years before. I'm just talking about like right now, everything from everything, So with that being said, I'm always looking for more knowledge. I'm like the little robot on the movie Short Circuit, like input, need more input. Johnny 5. Today was different though. Today was different. In my quest for knowledge, I meet. Wow, it's even when the time is right. You notice the age old saying, when the student is ready, like the teacher will appear or whatever. And so I was listening to some information from a very wise person, from a very wise man, and in that he quoted how it's something about the weather, right? Manipulation of the weather. And I got chills. I got like, it was crazy because I do that. And I'll tell you the first time I did it, right? And I've never heard anybody else say anything anything like that. I mean, I've talked to people about it, and they, in my lifetime, they've always thought I was crazy. But you know me, crazy is a good thing right now. So this shit's crazy, man. Like a lot of us felt alone our whole life. You know what I mean? It's part of why it sucks being like a little fucking nerd and shit in the middle of wherever you're from. You don't fit in nowhere. Nobody understands you. Nobody has the energy or patience to even begin to understand you and shit. And as you get older, it only gets worse because then you start to understand why you were different. Shit's, talk about stress. Today was very liberating though today, and I just wanted to share it with you because it's really a lot. I won't take you through everything, but I'll say this. You know, like I've had my own family's try had me spend time in mental health observation, to find out that there's nothing wrong with me. I just know things that the average per the PhD .com whatever on site. There's nothing wrong with me. I just know things that the average person don't know. But to know that your own family, quote unquote, as hard as you worked your whole life to never wind up in jail, the ways you've I mean, I ain't never had to like, you know, snitch on anybody to like not go to jail, but I've been because of, like I mentioned in a few times, been in a few police chases, and that's, you know, what really has kept me free, because when it mattered, I got away. And to know your own family would turn on you simply because of what you knew, combined with their ignorance. A lot of people probably think I'm just like, I'm just out here coming up with information and shit and talking about the United States versus America and all this shit because any number of reasons. But I've lived through, I ain't the one to be subject to, I'm a victim of it, but I lived through a lot of shit that when I do the analysis, the failure analysis of it, it comes down to knowledge and or just really knowledge of self and not conforming to what other people want you to be. And standing on that shit since my mid-20s, has cost me a great deal. It's the cost of the cost of freedom can be a lot higher than you think. Yeah, so if you want to go small school, I'm studying Greek mythology and analogies in third grade. I can't really talk to other third graders. The people that grew up with me in the neighborhood, they knew me long enough where they knew enough about me to know that, it was just who I was. It wasn't like I wasn't different to them. It was just like if they needed help with something that involved analytics or some thoughts, sometimes they knew they could come to me for that. You know what I'm saying? They needed to get past a certain board on a video game. We going over Pasha's, right? He gonna get us past it. Appreciate that in them. It was the people that outside the neighborhood that didn't know nothing about you, that didn't really understand you, right? But I'm painting a picture here because I could always feel shit. Like I never called myself a psychic, right? Because I felt like a psychic could turn the shit on and off like a switch. Like you could just ask them a question, and they could just pull the answer out of thin space. You know what I mean? And mine didn't really work like that at the time. It was more so, I don't know how to explain it. So I remember, I'm gonna fast forward through life, but I remember the book, The Secret, came out, and I didn't even know that it had just come out. Like, I forget where I saw it, but it was obviously, it's always the perfect day. Like, if you go back and watch some of the videos, you'll hear me say things like, stay focused on where you're trying to get to, and the path, will show itself to you. What I'm learning is, somebody else may say, they'll say the same thing, but it may be in a different language. So they'll say, the ancestors, instructed me to do this, right? And I may say that the path, appears for you because you'll be able to recognize the signs. You know what I'm saying? Like I know I've had a few people, and they teach, they show me how they do their things, or like we like candles for this and that and this, that, and the other, and I'll be like, oh, I just have a conversation like with the air or the space or with myself, and like I felt like I was doing the same thing. Like I never really, I knew about them, but I don't know as much about them because I never really got into any. I never added any ritual elements to certain things. You know what I mean? Up until like more recently in life, I just would have that conversation with myself, the Most High, whoever, whatever. All right. And I knew that's how it worked for me. Right. So anyway, I was given the opportunity to discover the book called The Secret. And conveniently, it happened to be like less than a month after the book came out. Like, I didn't even know it came out. I didn't even know Oprah, who watched Oprah back then. You know what I mean? At least as I don't watch Oprah. Like, I'm a guy. I don't know. I'm not saying that for any other guys, but Oprah's just not something I would have been like, yeah, I watch Oprah and this. But because of when I went to go look up the book, I found out, it was out for less than like a month. It was on like Oprah's recommended book list or something. All this kind of stuff, when you read up on the book before you get it. Back then, you used to be able to go to Barnes and Noble and pick up stuff. Shout out to Borders for still being around, right? So I go and get the book. And I'm going to tell you this book, if you don't know what it is, I'll tell you to definitely get it. It's called The Secret. It basically took like everything that I knew I was doing, but it kind of like gave me what I would call the remote control for how to use it. And they title it The Law of Attraction, right? It's kind of ironic because when people ask me what is it that you do, you're doing all this stuff, doing this, you're doing that, jack of all trades, master of none. I laugh because they don't, and I tell them I'm actually only mastering one thing, and that's truly been the law of attraction this whole time. Everything else you see me utilizing is a tool. It's just a tool for me to do the law of attraction. So I was motivated to share this with you because when the wise man said he was able to manipulate the weather, it fucking threw me back to what got me started. Even though I say it like that, like, yo, yeah, I'm just really mastering the law of attraction. Everything's just a tool for me to, like a carpenter has a saw, a hammer, screwdriver, pry bar. Like, you got all these different tools, just like any other mechanic, like a mechanic would, because you're mastering one task, but you got a bunch of different tools. So music to me is just a tool. Production is just a tool. So I read the book, right? And you know what? Normally I have an idea what I want, exactly a finite point of what I want to get to, a purpose. But this time I'm just talking about me for a moment. Because I never heard nobody else say they could do that. But me, I done told a lot of people, like, not really a lot of people, it's not a lot of people at all, but people in my life, like, that's close to me, that has been close to me. Because I'm not one to, most people don't stay close to me for long because I'm just not like everybody else. And I know that's so cliche, but I mean, I'm not. Nobody's ever. So it was very refreshing to hear that. I mean, you might hear about it like on the internet somewhere far away, but nobody I actually know. Like, so I read the book, and the book was like 200 pages. I read this book in a weekend. I'm not saying it was a dense read. It wasn't a hard read. The 200 pages, yeah. The words weren't like a ton of them on the. It was a lot of, a book, but it wasn't like every line was fine print and you're reading, 10 million words on it. So, but anyway, 200 pages. I had never read 200 pages in a weekend prior to that in my life. And I remember saying then, like, yo, this book is the shit, because I've read the whole fucking thing in a weekend. Like, I just sat there a weekend. It was like to the point where, I mean, not just like I didn't miss a word. I just the first time. I mean, we've all had the times where we're like, man, I hope it don't rain, because A, B, C, and D. I want to whatever, and you're like, yeah, it didn't rain, cool. So in the book, it had this part where it tells you, the power of thought, of course, your thoughts, which by default tells you that the only way to multiply the energy is to have multiple people thinking the same shit, which is why I spend so much time going over emotional control and etymology and mental health and all kind of wrapped up into one, because this is really what's at the core of everything. So I read the book, and I'm getting to the part where it's telling you that, if you speak it, if you say it, it's like this kind of level of energy, right? It's kind of like this level of power. And if you put it in the third person, it steps the energy up a little bit, which, when you think about it, it's probably why everybody has a little bit of a problem, or it's kind of awkward for most people to talk about themselves in the third person, because society frowns upon it. They don't even want you to write a resume or a bio in third person anymore. They say it's so tacky. now it's tacky, right? So third person makes it that much more powerful. Then they said put it in the past tense, right? If you put it in the past tense, it's even more powerful. And then writing it down, right? Damn. It's interesting. And that's part of the reason why I don't trip when people come and go, because I know we were sent to meet each other and exchange information on our journeys, like like the Oracle in the Matrix, but without her evil, sinister, true involvement in the scenario, or maybe so. I don't know. So, yeah, writing it down. Some of you have journals. I never really, and like I said, I never really journaled. And then mentally, for me, like Facebook and YouTube, like that's like a journal for me. I just got started getting into actual journaling. So I get to that part in the book during that weekend where it said, tell your story, tell it third person, put it in the past tense, and then writing it down was like the levels to the shit. And what I used to do at that time is I used to go outside. I used to go out back, in the evening, and and I used to blow a L, and I would be with my stars. I called them my stars. Stars in the sky, twinkle twinkle. And that's where I would have my like self-reflection or get my thoughts together and whatever it is I'm doing. So when I got to that part in the book, I went to go outside to smoke and do my meditate, clearing the mind or whatever you want to call it. I don't do titles, so I never like title shit. I just did what I do. So now I'm learning, like when I'm learning from people, I gotta translate shit sometimes. You know what I mean? So I understand what you guys are totally going through when I'm delivering some of the shit I'm delivering to you all, and that's what I'm saying. You got to put in the work. Like, if you're not gonna ask the questions, then you're gonna have to put in the work. That's what everybody else did. You know what I'm saying? That's what I did. That's what everybody else did. Either ask the questions, or and somebody know that you have a question, they can then engage that question, or you just gotta do it yourself. Put in the work. I mean, either way, it's work. So that particular night, like I said, I'm to that part in the book. I'm kind of eager to try it out because, like I said, I'm already realizing at that stage in the book that like this is the shit that I do. That like if I told people in the past, they would call me crazy and shit and look at me strange and divide families. So I go out there, and this particular night it's raining. Total overcast. No, you can't see nothing but clouds in the sky. It's dark, and it's raining. So I said, this is what better time than any to go ahead and try this technique, right? So I put the little story together. I put it in past tense. I did my name third person, and I told myself the story, and I was like, yeah, by like the second pull, the wind's calmed. You know what I mean? Like I'm really out there talking. I talk to myself all the time. I don't know about y'all, but sometimes I talk back. So I'm like, by the fourth pull, this happens, and I remember saying on the seventh pull, like on the sixth pull, the rain slowed, but on the seventh pull, it stopped. The rain stopped, and he could see his stars. And that's the way I told the story is the way it happened. And the way it came upon me was, that was the first time. I mean, we've all been in situations that you might have been scared, but that was the first time I ever felt fear. Like, that was like, actually, I think that was the only time I could say I've ever felt what I would call fear. Because it's one thing when you just say something like, yeah, I hope it stopped raining because we want to, and it happens. You're like, oh, cool, it stopped raining. It's another thing to know that you just fucking instructed it the first time you do it. And I'm looking, how they tell you, like, they keep us like this on the phone and they keep us all here so we don't look up and, see what's going on in the sky. Well, so what I said that for is to say, so I'm smoking, right? So I'm smoking, but I'm aware of the pulls I'm taking. So I'm keeping the count, because literally I gave the story per the count of the pulls. Like any true smoker would base a story off of. So The fear came when I got to the part where I said it stopped raining, because literally on the almost to the second, it stopped raining when I said it would. And the fear came because I didn't know what I was going to do if I looked up and I saw stars. Like, that's what the fear was from. I know that may be stupid or whatever, but you don't understand. I just predicted. It wasn't like oh man, I hope it stopped raining. It was, this is gonna happen and this is gonna happen. On the fourth pull, this, then that, and then the wind's gonna slow, and then this and that, and on the sixth pull, it's gonna stop raining, and on the seventh pull, you're gonna look up and see his stars, and the shit fucking happened like that. And that means that the next pull, I'm supposed to look up and see stars. It was just fucking raining. So I took the pull and I looked up, and it wasn't the whole sky, but literally if you take your hand like this and just put it, like, make a little, like that, little roundness, and then hit that over your head like that, that hole that you would get up in the sky, it was a hole that big in the sky. Well, in the sky is big as shit. It wasn't the whole sky, but this shit here is big as shit once you aim it up to the sky, right? It was a hole in the clouds. And you didn't see the moon, but you saw the halo from the moon and the fucking stars in the background. That was the first time I ever, like, remote controlled, knowing ahead of time I'm remote controlling some shit. Remote controlled it. That was the scariest day of my life. Now how the fuck do I go back in the house and tell anybody anything? I mean, I wasn't like at home with parents then. I'm in my mid-20s. At that point in time, I had I was over little females, little women's, I'll tell you why. Another reason. I'll tell you something else. There's a reason why I get rid of people in my life. It's not because I want to be alone. It's not because, yes, it is probably because I want to be alone. From them anyway. But here's another thing. It's a difference between someone doing you wrong. Let's say it's a difference between someone hurting you, like, inadvertently, and someone injuring you intentionally. Because injury actually, what would it be if I didn't slide in some etymology, right? So the etymology also means to be wronged, of injury. The etymology of injury also means to be wronged, right? So that's why you get in, like, court cases and they're always talking about what the injury was. Something I noticed early on before I could even explain it was that when people did me wrong, something like crazy always happened to them, like, shortly after that. I never had to worry about, I ain't gonna say never had to worry about, but on your normal day-to-day shit, I never had to worry about, like, what people's intentions were, because there was always a cost associated with it, when you fucking with me. What I learned was people was getting hurt. Things was happening. I mean, like, shit was happening to people. Like, I'm talking crazy shit happening to people. I remember I always stood up for people too, you know, and they never, I don't think they never communicated appreciation for it. And whenever there was a time for them to like very few, there was a few of them. I'm talking about outside of the neighborhood and stuff like that. Very few people would have your back when it was time. Very few people. And I remember I went to school with some people I wound up working with later on at Discover Financial, right? This is how I lost my job at Discover Financial. Or I'm gonna say this is how I was removed from Discover Financial. Someone, a woman and a man at the time was working there. They were like a couple, and we all had went to high school together, so we all like knew each other, like, right? And the way the like the call center was set up was you might have some seats, and it's big. It was 3 stories. It was a lot of people that could fit in there. Had a internal cafeteria and everything with the chefs and stuff. You know how it go. So anyway, there was a whole area here, but you could see like this one area very close, where there was a couple conference rooms, not necessarily the largest conference rooms in the building, but there were some conference rooms, and we would have meetings in there, stuff like that. So she had fallen out in one of the meetings, right? I remember, I know her and him. They're a couple. We went to high school together, and we knew each other. She falls out in a meeting, has a seizure. She don't have no prior medical history of anything like that. I'm not saying I knew every detail about her life, but she ain't had no medical history like that. Now, the thing was, though, when I was there, everybody, like I was basically running the whole building. I pretty much do that everywhere I go. You know what I mean? I like to learn because I like to learn everything on all the levels, like we talked about before. I don't do titles because I've always been that mindset of, hey, you guys pay millions of dollars to know what you're doing up in here. I'm not paying no college $30,000 a year or $30,000 for 4 years to go find out shit. You know what I mean? I'm ready to soak all this up. What do you do? What do you know? You know? So everybody wound up coming to me for everything because I knew how to do everything. And it was great for whatever team you was on. That manager always enjoyed you. But then when you go to another team, they ain't like it because now you're the competition, and they know their team ain't gonna win no shit until you come back to their team. Like every contest they had in 6 years, I won all the prizes. I would do shit like win the prize and then sell it to somebody else that worked there. Like, because I didn't want it. What I want to do with it? I don't want that shit. I just wanted to win. So anyway, I had to set that stage so you know that if I said do something in there, everybody move. And my management knew that, right? But what happened was, because she fell out and had that seizure, me and like 30 other people we knocked congesting like the entry to the thing or anything, but we kind of standing close, really worried about her. So it had been some things that caused high level management to like, we had a falling out prior to it. Like it was kind of a rough year. The last like whole year had been kind of rough because they had changed leadership, and the new leadership wasn't really, they did a whole restructuring, join like their goal there used to be like 11. You know how you call in to your credit card back in the day, and they help you with your problem or whatever, and then they try to sell you something too. Well, that's what we did too, and they had a goal of like 11 products per month, right? They give you like, I don't know, I think it was like $8 a product or something in some cases, Well, my highest month there was like 1,000. Literally, this is the actual number, 1,069% goal. Like, you say you giving out how much? Like, I came off the block. You say you giving out how much per product? $8. Man, my highest day was 47 in a day. Real shit. They had to change the whole structure of the bonus because of what I was doing in there. Like I said, I was killing them. The month I started, I couldn't compete in the one thing. They gave away 2 Volkswagen Beetles when they first came out, like the new body styles. And that's the only thing that they had that I didn't win, but it was because like however long the competition was, like I came out to the floor like from training like the week before they gave away the prize. Like you know what I mean? So it was like already over. But that's the only everything that the competition they had, I won. I'm talking about be on vacation, come back, start from zero, come back and win and still win the shit with like 4 days left. I mean, it didn't matter to me. I would come into work, bang out like 10 products sold. If it took me sometimes 10 calls, sometimes 20 calls, I bang out 10 products sold, and I get up and go talk to I'm younger then, so young and fly. So I'm going hollering at the shorties. Come back, take another few calls, bang out another 10 products. People weren't able to do this in a whole month. I was knocking it out in a couple hours. Anyway, so what my point was, let me get back on track. She had a seizure. We all standing around concerned. My supervisor at the time, or you would have called her supervisor, came over, singled me out of everybody, said, "Hey, need you to get back on the phones." But the reason she did that was because she knew if I moved, everybody was gonna follow my lead. And my response to that was verbatim: "We're all concerned about a life here if you're not." 2 hours later, they were walking me out for insubordination. They had actually by that time, 6 years is a long time. So by that time, like that last year, they had changed the bonus structure and everything. Like they was giving away like what used to be $8, they was only giving you like $2.54 and all this shit. So it was just bad, man. And you know how corporations are when they get greedy. So, I was like, well, I'm just gonna make gold and fuck it. I ain't worried about this shit no more. So all the times they tell you you're doing too much, you're making other people feel offended because they can't keep up with you. I'm like, why they give a fuck what I'm doing? They should just worry about making gold. Then when I started just making gold, they're like, oh, you should want to be more than just average. Man, fuck that. Shut up. You were just telling me be average 2 years ago. Shut the fuck up. Now I'm average. Now you crying. So anyway, I had to paint the whole story of Discover because this is why. I get a call like not even 2.5 weeks later. You know, people still know me there, right? You know how it go. And they were like, yo, did you hear what happened to so-and-so? Talking about my supervisor. And I was like, nah. They're like, man, look. She fell down a whole flight of stairs in the stairwell. I mean, you know, some of the industrial stairs where you got to go down and then it gives you a little landing, come around, go down again, and now you're at the next floor. So each like floor had like a half and half, you know what I'm saying? They're like, yo, she fell down a flight of stairs. Nobody was in the stairway with her. She just was by herself and just fell down the fucking steps. She out of work. She don't know when she coming back. She hurt. That's the type of shit that be happening to people. Someone try to play you, and the next thing you know, it's like, yo, did you hear what happened to so-and-so? Man, they got a fucking car accident, man. They wind up being out of work for 6 months. So what my thing was, I was afraid for people. Because, you know, people don't know no better. They don't know no better. They think they doing something to you. They think they getting over. They think they doing... But my thing was, shit would always happen to people, but my fear, my confusion, rather, I was at war with myself. So my confusion was, I didn't know if I was... Like, I didn't know if I was making it happen because of maybe how I felt about them or something. Or like the, you know, angels and demons around me or whatever was going out and doing it in response to what was done to me. What I knew was, and it's why you don't ever see me like excited or sad. I'm always in the groove, they call it. Right? I'm always neutral. And it's because, one, you know, I know people, emotions can be weaponized. Yeah, they can. But in addition to that, I didn't know if shit was happening to other people because of how far I get from neutral. So I had to always focus on staying calm. It was like the movie Carrie. You know what I mean? Like, it was like the Incredible Hulk. I knew I was fucked up in it. I knew I was fucked up. I remember when I just moved out of Newcastle. Remember the boys club used to have like the Nintendos and shit? And you used to sit around and you know, you wait your turn to play Nintendo. And I was a big kid. And I remember I'm the new kid, and the people from the neighborhood, I might have been around for like a year or so by then. You know, I'm still young, like maybe 8 years old, something stupid like that. And I'm a big kid, but this kid was bigger than me, right? And he tried to take my necks on Nintendo at the boys club. This is when I learned I had a problem and I had to stay away from people, because I can't tell you what the fuck. I mean, I remember what happened. I remember seeing it, but I can't tell you how, why, whatever, right? All I know is I grabbed this motherfucker by his throat with both hands. And he fell back on the pool table, and the way he fell back, we kind of slid off like fell on it and then slid down it and fell on the floor. And I landed on top of him. And I was kind of just choking the shit out of him a little bit, right? I ain't throw no punch, no nothing. And I say it like that because my peoples came, they broke the shit up and everything. And then later they was asking, it's like, yo, why didn't you hit him? And I was like, because in my mind, I just wanted to push my thumbs through his throat, and I actually saw all the blood come out of his neck and run onto the floor. I'm 8 fucking years old. This is what I see in my mind. I'm gonna kill someone over a fucking Nintendo NX at 8 with my bare hands. I gotta stay away from people. People don't understand. Like, this is why I be trying to tell the young cats, man. Like, y'all think it's cool to fight. I'm at that age where I got here, like, right when it was like, you thought you wanted to fight, but then when you beat someone's ass, they coming back. It just started to become a thing where they coming back and you gotta shoot it out now. Possibly. More often. So to speak. You know what I mean? So you can't just beat someone's ass anymore. You gotta be ready to kill them at any given moment. Like, so people play too much. They want to provoke you and poke you like the bear and shit so that they can cry victim later on when something happens to them, to try and justify why they want to whatever. Really because they was playing too much. You see people that don't know any better, they be like, oh, you know, they don't know violence. They don't know what violence really is. And I've talked to people. I know a couple people that think, you know, I feel like if you're gonna, my grandma, let me put it like this. My grandma said, don't do for one what you can't do for all. So now if you're gonna shoot one, then you might as well pull that list out that you got from your whole life and just go ahead and take care of all of them. I mean, that's literally what you might as well do. You got 250 people on your list, then you just, you know, make sure you got enough ammo. There's no point in taking one out if you're not gonna take them all out. So it better be worth it, is what I'm saying. Because in a lot of cases, there's no difference in what the cost of that exchange is going to be. This is why I have to stay away from people. Because I don't have any emotional attachments. And people play too much. But going back to, I got distracted again. So what my thing is like, I've always had this where shit would happen to people. So I kind of, in a lot of cases, I never even had to say nothing because it was just like, cool. Like, I could just come in and be like, yo, who did whatever. You know, people don't say shit. But then you find out because remember the signs and the signals, right? 2 weeks later, it's like, yo, you hear what happened to so-and-so? Yeah, damn, yo, it was crazy. I'll be like, oh, okay. Makes sense now. So the reason I have to stay away from people is because I don't want nothing bad to happen to them. You know? And then somebody else would say, you know, I'm protected by my ancestors. The closest I got was saying, hey, maybe the angels and demons are responding to me. Because I was into you know, even back then I was into some crafts and shit. and learning about invoking and evoking spirits and, you know, all that shit by myself, because the people around me weren't into that shit. And I don't fault them. I just, you know, so that's part of why I'm saying, like, I didn't know if it was me or if it was just what was around me doing this work. But I knew I had to stay neutral in my emotional shit. I couldn't get too excited. I couldn't get too down. I think I might have been coming out of a little depression recently because I'm so this whole thing is bothering me. I know the energies are changing and stuff, you know, up top there with the direct motions and stuff now shifting back and all that good stuff, but and solar flares and coronal mass ejections and all this shit. I know it's a lot going on right now, so I don't know what exactly to pinpoint it on, but yeah, that's why I had to stay away from people, because I never knew if it was me or if it was just, like they would say, the ancestors, right? This is why my music sounds so different, because I'm trying to heal something in people that they don't realize is a dis-ease or disorder. So, you know, so I was going back to the book, right? So I'm reading the book. I wound up, I had a friend, you know what I mean? Like, my beard connected when I was 13, right? You know what I'm saying? So when I was 13, the 18, you know what? That's crazy, because right now that would probably be a problem. But when I was 13, you know, like, the chicks that was talking to me was like older, you know, close to 18. By the time I was 18, they were like, actually, when I was like 16, 17, they were like 24, 25 with their own apartments and cars and shit. So anyway, you know how it go. We doing our thing as and so I remember I had a friend. She was working at we had known each other for a long time. Well, I ain't gonna say a long time, like 6 years. You know what I mean? She couldn't go to the. We decided she couldn't go to the prom with me because she was like already like 20. But she like helped me get dressed for prom and everything, and I went with some other chick, and at some point, you know, she was working at the ER. You know, we had done the couple thing for a few years and shit like that when I was younger, and in that state of mind. And so it was not by that time she was running the ER. You know what I mean? Like, literally, no, I mean, like, she was running the ER, whatever that title is. She ran the ER and shit. So it'd be nothing for me to go up there, you know, her to call me, hey, why don't you come through, have lunch with me or something. I'd be out all times of night doing what I do anyway. So every now and then I swing through and bust it up with her. So by this time we weren't like together anymore, but you know how it go. You get that call every couple months, you know, come see me type shit. You know what I'm saying? And this particular time, she called, looking to, you know, see what was up, and I was so excited because I was reading a book. Or actually, I had already read the book, and I was like, "Yo, I just read this. Have you heard about this book?" You know how that conversation would go. Have you heard about this book? And she was like, "Nah, you know, why don't you come up here and tell me about it?" And so I was like, you know what? When I get done doing what I'm doing, I'll swing through. So about it was like 3:00 something in the AM, 3 something. I swing up there, holler at her, and I had just left. I had just left the club, like, so I had like, you know, I wasn't never. Well, I had a period of time where I used to drink, and like early on though, and but like occasional, a Patron and pineapple here and there when I'd be out at this spot. That was my little thing. So I had some Patron pineapple. I wasn't like drunk or nothing, not even on that none of that shit. But I wasn't nothing like that. It wasn't nowhere near. I don't know. I was just, you know what I'm saying. And I had blew like an L, so I had some. But anyway, I'm at the ER. I'm talking about the motherfucking the book. I'm talking about the book, right? And dumbass, but it was cool though because it's not like it was weird. But let me say like some other doctor was walking by and kind of overheard and chimed in a conversation and asked, they knew each other and stuff. So the doctor started asking me some questions or whatever, right? Innocent. Then they asked, so what do you think, you're God? and I was like, okay, it's time to go. Right? So, but anyway, I bring up all that to say, look, that book actually bought me my first visit to what they call mental health observation, yo. This is how you know you come across some powerful information, right? So I wind up getting put into the overnight observation. And of course they find alcohol in my system and they call it marijuana and stuff, whatever. So they keep me like overnight or whatever it was, a little longer than normal. Then somehow I get transferred to the state hospital, right? Like, yo, this is some real shit. And I'm in this motherfucker, and I'm a little different back then. So like, I'm wilding the fuck out. Like, yo, I'm not supposed to be here. You don't understand. This is crazy. And I don't care how much law you think you know. The one thing you don't want to tell them when you in there is that you're going to sue them when you get out of there, because they going to check some boxes and your ass ain't going to see out of there for a while. They going to start making you take some pills and shit, and you going to be floating and shit, right? And then they be doing this shit like, okay, so what we're going to do tomorrow? It's like, hold on, what the fuck you mean what we going to do tomorrow? I'm not supposed to be here. It's already been 24 more hours than what do you mean tomorrow? What are we talking about tomorrow for? And they just like check. They start checking these boxes on the shit, right? And then they get to the last one. They're like, so is the medication working? And you're like, fuck no, I ain't taking no medication. Oh, check. Okay, so tomorrow what we're gonna do, right? Tomorrow come. You still up in that motherfucker. Talk about, nah, man, you fuck that, yo, great. You know what I'm saying? And they like check. And they come to that time period of the day, they ask you the same questions again. Like, you like, nah, man, you don't understand. Look, I'm going to tell you, though, motherfucking MacGyver. Grandma had me watching MacGyver with her ass. Man, I was in that mother because they take your phone, they take everything. Back then, well, shit, anybody, probably now, you don't remember your people's contacts. I know you need to remember a few of them, because it's important if you don't ever need to make a call out your phone. You need to know these numbers, right? But we get kind of so used to speed dial. We got to make sure that we commit some to our memory. But back then, right, the luxury back then was I don't know if they still do this now, because who gets an actual cell phone bill anymore, right? But back then they used to send you your cell phone bill, and it'd be this packet with all the numbers you called on there and everything. You know, I don't think they didn't spell out like all your text messages, but they had all that little numbers or texts on there and shit, and they would have every number you called in the fucking bill. So I'm in the motherfucking room like, yo, can I use the fax machine? My nerd ass, right? I'm calling Sprint like, yo, Sprint, look, I need you to fax over my last bill to this number right here, all right? Cool. And they faxed over my bill, so that's how I got my numbers. I'm that motherfucker making calls, handling business and shit, like from the motherfucking mental hospital. Grind don't stop. Grind don't stop. So like day 3, right? I was up in this motherfucker. I tried to escape. I don't see how people be going away for some time. It took me 2.5 days. I was trying to escape, and they make it like a maze up in that. It's a maze up in that motherfucker, right? When you get up in there, it's like a maze. I think they do that purposely so you don't remember which way is out. And I was always big, but I was fast. I was fast for my size. Like I'll run you down for like the first, you know. I ain't gonna say I'll cross country run you down like for miles and shit, but you know, for that, yeah, I'll run you the fuck down. You'd be surprised. And so anyway, I broke out on them, and I'm running. I'm out, and they had these doors. Like this one section of the hallway had these double doors that, you know, open like that. Man, I remember it was like I was running like, and I leaped in the air like woo, and kicked the door, boom, and said bloom, and I was like, right, and they calling on the radio. I done left this group, but you can still hear the walkies. They calling on the radio for backup and shit. And what it was, I found out later on that if I had, where I made a left, I finally got to like where I want to get to, where I made a left. If I had made a right, I would have went the right way, and I'd have got to the door. And who would have known what would happen there? I don't know. I don't know if I would have got out. I don't know if they got the little buttons they got down like the banks and the jewelry stores and shit. I don't know. I don't even know what I would have did when I got out of there besides just run. Because, you know, they put that shit out in the middle of nowhere. Where the fuck you gonna go? But if I had made a right instead of a left, I'd at least found out. But I made the left, and I wound up running right into the other pod's emergency crew of like 6 people running this way. And yeah, and then the people behind me caught up with me. So I got caught. And then it was weird because I remember I held the wall, but it was like open palm against the wall, and they were like trying to toss me down. I was just standing there like, what are you doing? Like, you're not gonna move. And I literally told them, like, you're not gonna move me, and it's okay. I'm not gonna go anywhere. But they literally couldn't pull me off the wall. I ain't saying I'm Spider-Man or nothing, but they literally couldn't pull me off the wall. And so then I went into the isolation room. So then I went into the isolation room, and I had to spend like a day there and shit. And I talked them out of giving me the needle that make you like go to sleep and shit. I was like, nah, it's okay. I look, I'm not crazy. I just wanted to get the fuck out of here. You ain't gotta do it. But I had to stay in the room. I had to go to the isolation room. So yeah, at some point you gotta play their game. And so I started just, you know, telling them what they wanted to hear for the questions. And you know, the whole time they're pumping you full of drugs. I think they had me on like, I forget what it's called, like lithium or something. But they wound up saying, every time I get ready to go, they wound up saying there ain't nothing wrong with you. You know? But that, talking to the people, the PhD people in there, they know about the fucking secret book. And again, they were just like, well, that was the first time. So they were like, I had a second time too. And they were just basically like, yo, you know, you gotta be careful who you talk to shit to people about, right? Which at that point in time, it was like, okay, that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, be concerned about that. I mean, slightly. I ain't give a fuck. I'm telling you what the fucking truth is. So I get out finally after 10 days. I spent 10 days in that motherfucker that first time. And you know, aside from getting in there, I probably bought myself like 4 days, 5 days myself. Right? So what that told me though was that the knowledge in that book is so powerful that if you talk about it among the wrong people, they're that afraid of it. They're that afraid of you possessing the knowledge. Yeah, I know. I know. I already considered that. But it was perfect. It was always the perfect day. It's always the perfect day because I'm so glad that happened, because what happens for me, right, is the people here with me, so to speak, at least to my eye level, they always say something's wrong with me. It's not until I wind up in places like that where you find out ain't nothing wrong with you. Because they know this shit and they can talk to you about it on that high level overview type conversation, and you can have that conversation with them and they're okay with it. Why you say it like that, Pasha? I say it like that because it was the same type of shit happened, you know, when I started learning how to operate and conduct myself in court myself. I literally had people stop fucking with me because I was like, yo, I gotta go to court. I got pulled over. What you get pulled over for? They said I was driving with no license, no insurance, no registration. But I'm gonna beat the case. You're crazy. Man, you crazy. Don't be going there and do that shit. And they literally, like, a couple people, like, literally stopped fucking with me. Like, my own mother was like, turned her back on me, saying I was crazy. Like, literally, like, to the point where she was like, yo, you know what I mean? Because back then, I didn't transition into just calling myself an American yet, because a lot of the early knowledge I got came through the more the more origin, so to speak. I was doing a lot of self-study, and if you follow the channel, you already know that I got to the point where something like this, and we were talking about the Moorish national ID card or whatever, and the people that had one that I knew was like, it never worked for them. So that led me to go to the Moorish Science Temple, and I always go to the fucking source, man. I don't be bullshitting. So I went to the Moorish Science Temple in Philly, met with the head title person there after he got done doing his little speech, lecture, pastoring, whatever the fuck you want to call it, no disrespect. And I asked them, like, yo, what's the thing about the Moorish National ID card? And they were basically like, oh yeah, that's something you get when you reach this tier. I didn't call it a tier, but I'm gonna put it like this tier, right? When you go through this process and you go through this and you get that and you get this and then you get that, and when you get up here, you get the Moorish National ID. It was like, but they said they didn't teach none of what I was studying. They didn't teach there. Now, for people that's in the knowledge, we know, and we knew at the time, I knew at the time, that the CIA had infiltrated the, Moorish Science Institute after Noble Drew Ali passed, and there was only like a couple of them left that are legit in the country. That was the hearsay, right? But here's how we tested out, because my people were telling me that their national ID card never did nothing for them. I'm telling them, I'm great. This was post. I'm great. I beat the case, or I'm gonna beat the case, or whatever, right? So they looking at me crazy too, because they like, you ain't even got one of these and you think you gonna beat the case. I'm like, what did that do for you? And they were like, I don't know, it never worked. So I went to them and they were like, yeah, we don't teach none of that here. And I was like, well, what the so that's when I just checked that off the box. And when I went to court, I realized I never had to present nothing like that anyway. I just had to know a couple things. So, like I said, I had people on the streets that was turning their back on me, family included, talking shit about me. I got pulled over 3 times in a 5 week period of time for the same shit. So I had, and then you know what happens? You get court case here this month, then the next court case is like a month after that, but then that first one's still like 2 months, 3 months down the road or some bullshit. So you know how it go. I had court like three different months back to back. And that was right before, like the year before I came down to Charlotte. Matter of fact. So I just come down to Charlotte. I'm running back every month to go to court once a month and shit. I got arrested outside of the court for disorderly conduct because they wanted you to stand over here, and I was like, this is America. I can stand where I want to stand. And they, so they wound up locking me up, taking me to the turnkey under the courtroom. You know what I mean? That's where I got booked there for disorderly conduct. I got out, ran upstairs, made it to court, and won the case, and then drove back. I traveled from Charlotte to Wilmington, Delaware, got arrested outside of court, got out, won my case, and traveled back to Charlotte in 22 hours. Right? Like just done, out, gone. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, what I'm getting at is the judge stands up before he gives the deliberation on the on the court case, because when you go to traffic court, you ain't really having a trial because you're supposed to have a jury of your peers. For those that don't know, and you'll not see them there even if you request a trial, right? So that tells you something. For those that are critical thinkers, you may want to look into that for your entertainment purposes. Right? So he stands up, right? And he's like, before I give you the deliberation or whatever, I want to commend you. And he starts to go into this speech about how, my case was so well prepared and I was very well articulated and, da 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 da, and, blah, 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 blah. And he wished more Americans would come in and conduct themselves as such. And then he gives me a standing ovation for like 20 seconds. I got 6 state prosecutors over here. It was just me with my little briefcase and my prepared counterclaim and my section A and my notes and everything, and I got my Constitution book and my Bill of Rights book in my briefcase, and I got a hoodie on in the fucking courtroom, hoodie and jeans and a briefcase. And the 6 state prosecutors, because they make you wait till everybody else, so it wound up being the 6 state prosecutors over there. They standing up, they clapping too. Right? I mean, for you guys, for all you ladies and gentlemen, the most satisfying thing that, I ain't gonna say most satisfying, one of the most satisfying things you'll ever have in life, if you've ever getting pulled over by an officer, a public official, is being in court and you cross-examining the state's witness yourself, which is the officer that pulled you over, right? And they can't answer your questions. So Won that case, and state prosecutor, the head state prosecutor, comes over afterwards and says, "Hey, you should consider being an attorney." And we both laugh because I said that would change my status, and we know what that meant. So my thing is, when you get into those positions, I know, laugh with me, right? The hiccups and shit. I'm still growing. The satisfaction, the saddening part, because sad means to satisfy. The saddening part is that I always learn that I'm not crazy, right? I'm reminded that I'm not crazy, rather, from the people that everybody else said was going to see me as crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, they put you in the mental, they want you to go to the mental hospital because they want them to say something's wrong with you, and they're in there telling you nothing's wrong with you. It's everybody else, son. You know what I'm saying? They disassociated with you because they said you were crazy because you were talking about the law, and when you go to court, the judge, you know, supposedly who they see as the authority in the law, says, you know what, there's nothing wrong with you. It's everybody else, son. And then I actually had the second time, my own family had me checked in, because when I came to Charlotte, you know, they don't be knowing what you into, so they don't know what you know. So I came to Charlotte, they were all like, Charlotte is so nice and it's wonderful and, you know, it's so clean and oh my God. Because we came from Wilmington, Delaware, you know what I mean? So Newcastle, Delaware, they, you know, so I was like, shit, North Carolina open carry state just like Delaware. I got my shit with me everywhere. So they try to actually set me up a little bit. I think her I don't know if it was her husband, jealousy or what, but something was not right. And I was trying to tell them, like, look, you guys, you got to look at the law. Like, this is what it is. You should be, you know, you're supposed to be protecting the family. You don't know this shit. Kind of disappointing you, but anyway, that's another story. So they wound up getting me checked in for a mental oh man, they wound up getting me checked in for another visit, and I had at one point in that stay, I was doing a Q&A with, I was getting interviewed by one of the medical, was it the psychologist? One of the psychologists or whatever. And they had my paperwork. And I was like, well, tell me what they said on the paperwork. And they was like, there's 4 lines on the paperwork they put on you. And I was like, well, tell me what they were. She was like, has a big gun, takes the big gun with him everywhere he goes, walks around the house with a gun. Like, but you gotta remember though, and then they were like, and claims he's part of the Moorish nation. These motherfuckers got me checked out for having a gun, and for what they claim to be part of a Moorish nation. This is my family, right? Supposedly my blood. And so here's the same thing. I mean, I knew the game. I knew the drill this time. So I'm just in there like, all right, how long is it gonna be? They're like, you'll probably be out in 3 or 4 days. I was like, all right, so I just gotta sit still for 3 or 4 days. But you gotta go through their little, like, you know, they got the medical people that come check on you. They got the psychological people that come check on you. They got this person that come, like, these different dot alphabet people, right? And it was refreshing because every time I'm in that position, I get to have a conversation with people that actually know, excuse me, know the shit that I'm talking about. And we can sit there and talk about it. And they're like, this is really... So, again, this was the first time that they actually said, like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, this was the verbatim. It was like, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that you know shit that the average people don't know, and you just need to be careful who you talk to about it. You know, when you got people that's talking about because a father ain't in their daughter's life, they got judgments against them or prejudices or what they think is going on, and you know that they're deadbeat or something, some bullshit like that. You know, my child support was $400 and something a month. I paid that. I used to have my daughter all the time until I started teaching her about being an American. And then you get a call from your daughter's mother like, hey, what are you teaching our daughter? Because I didn't really talk to her like that. I had 5 chicks. I mean, at that point in my life, I had 5 women that all knew each other existed. My daughter's mother used to come pick me up from my main girl spot, and I could leave my car there, go with her for a day or two, come back, get dropped off. I mean, that's just, I don't know what kind of life y'all live, but I don't do titles. And so I don't know if she was spiteful or whatever, blah, 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 but we always had a great relationship because I didn't have to talk to her once my daughter got old enough to talk. I got her a cell phone. I called her. She could communicate with her mother. If father called, said, coming to get her, I'm coming to get her. So, you know, I didn't really have to talk to her that much unless it was something in particular, some school event she wanted to make sure I knew about, something like that to show up to, all kinds of stuff, you know, basic stuff like that. So, anyway, that call ended with she gonna be a U.S. citizen just like her mother. And then it got rough, and I didn't, you know, I went one day when I was at court, because I was in court a lot back then for some reason. So one day when I was at court, I checked, and I realized that I didn't have any visitation on paperwork, right? And for those that know, you gotta go through a whole process to do that and shit. But what people don't know is that because of my status, I could have stopped all that shit. Like, I could have actually done a lot and made things a lot different because of what I know and what's not real with what you would call like the whole child support system and all that shit, and custody and all that shit, and state lines and all that shit. It was a smear campaign going on at the time. I think you might remember when it wasn't too long after that they had like a big smear campaign on TV about what they call sovereign citizens, which you can't be sovereign and be a citizen, but dumbass public, right? They up there, the news is selling them sovereign citizens, and it was people running around calling themselves sovereign citizen too. So you can't necessarily blame them, but it gave them the opportunity to blow it way out of proportion. And the icing on the cake was when the two down in Virginia, the European looking people jumped out the van and shot the officer on the highway in Virginia. And they were like, sovereign citizens killing it. You know, so it was like a whole bunch of shit going on. So I don't know. But that was like, so it became really difficult for me to be in my daughter's life because she thought I was going to basically kidnap my daughter and bring her back to Delaware and never bring her back again, which came up later on, but which came out later on, but fuck that dumb shit. Like, you didn't say that then. and it kind of ruined a great relationship. And there were some other things there too. Because I used to just have my money flowed a lot differently at one point, you know, because I was involved in a lot of stuff, and sometimes when you can't do certain things, people don't understand. You know what I'm saying? So when you say no, even though you could do it, and you still say no because they didn't earn it, like a new cell phone when you got the last iPhone already, it's easy to manipulate, you know, youth. So when you look at that situation, though, for me, it's I'm gonna be our daughter's gonna be a U.S. citizen just like her mother. So that tells me my next son or daughter's mother needs to be in tune with being an American, which where you gonna find one of them at? I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying you gotta be careful with who you selecting, right? Who you electing for that position. So yeah, a lot of shit all boils down to ignorance, complacency, pacification, and I'm really a gift and a curse of the byproduct, really, of that disconnect between American and U.S. citizen. So I'm not just like, you know, there's a real opportunity to change society if everybody knew the truth. And part of what had me, I guess I would call it depression, is recently. Like, I'm really just coming out of a fog like the last couple of weeks. But it's because you put all this work in to help free people emotionally, mentally. This is why, though. I mean, this is the background of why I'm so motivated to do it. Because everything that you guys take for granted, or, you know, when you want to tell someone, how could you not talk to your mother in years, and my mother don't want to talk to me. I was the motherfucking kid that was doing calculus, you know, at like 9 years old. Like, you weren't going to just tell me to go to my room because you said so. I pulled out a flip chart board and was doing diagrams on why that's fucking irrelevant, your feelings. You know what I mean? I was that son, because there was no logic in, well, just because I said so. Like, you had to make sense when you talked to me at 8, at 9, at 5. You know what I'm saying? And that wore mother out. You know? So by the time I got older and was like, yeah, Mom, you didn't buy me no sneaks, I'm selling weed. You know, at like, you know, 14, I'm not coming home anymore at curfew. I'll be in when I get ready. Like, it's like you spent your whole life trying to make me something I'm not, because you didn't understand who I really was or what I really was. And you were trying to make me conform to what society said I should be, when I never wanted to be that. I could be a millionaire right now, multi-millionaire, if I believed in money, but I don't. I just know I gotta pay a couple bills here and there, but I don't believe in that shit, to be honest. So it's kind of hard for me to really focus on like acquiring a whole a super whole bunch of it for no fucking reason. Cause that means I'm out here. I don't know. I just always looked at it like that. I don't like it. I don't like networking with people that don't like me just so I can get paid. Which is a problem, because then the people that do may not be able to afford you, and then the people that can afford you may have an agenda to kill the people that you really care about, so you don't kind of want to partake in that, right? So what do? You just live. You stand on truth. So you don't fit in anywhere. Why? Because you're American. And everybody in some way, shape, or form is playing the role of a U.S. citizen. So what are you supposed to do? You take them all out, or do you give them an opportunity to learn something? So I'm just tired of real people. I'm just tired of the real people having to suffer the most. You know what I'm saying? Because the fake people that may not even realize they're fake. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you out there just being fake. You may not realize you're fake. They may not realize they fake. They may not know what they do. Forgive them. They know not what they do. But I don't forgive. Because forgive, like we went over in the video, that means to give. You already been injured, right? Like we talked about, injury is not just physical. Like it could just be wronged. But then on top of that, forgiveness means to give a piece of oneself. So you don't already took, let's say, a pound of flesh. Now you want me to give you another pound of flesh. How much do you forgive before you had nothing left of yourself? I don't forgive. I'm unforgiving. So United States, man, they gotta pay. All of them. So this movement, if you want to call it such, you know, I understand why. Like I said in the last video, the music ain't for everybody, because everybody ain't really lived through no shit like this. But for those that have, they get it. U.S. hurt a lot of people, man. I hurt a lot of people. Destroyed a lot of families. And at this rate, y'all probably gonna have to decide shortly whose side y'all on. It's easy for you to talk about, oh, they trying to induce another civil war. It's easy for y'all to say things like that. But I don't think you understand. I don't think you understand. Pasha Pyro. Thanks for letting me just share, some shit about me. Because I think sometimes people get confused, or they don't know why this is so important to me. But everything y'all would take for granted, family, friends, opportunities, success, everything, your whole life, right? When you American, it's not the same, because of normative social influence and all that bullshit. People want you to conform and shit, and I don't really subscribe to being fake to fit in. So that costs you some things. It costs you some things. Freedom, this freedom, mentally, emotionally, lawfully, it has a high cost of ownership. But cost, if you go back to the cost price value video, shameless plug, cost is what it takes to manufacture it, to produce it. See, so I produced this, but price is what must be paid for it by someone else. So United States, they gonna have a huge price to pay. They're gonna have a huge price to pay. Because they've hurt a lot of people. Pasha Pyro, Y7. I'm gonna get my hiccup in the ass up out of here. Enjoy.